husband and I had $7,000 saved for a summer trip. Colorado, Rocky Mountain National Park, out west, up the coast, and Disneyland. We looked at that plan, looked at the number, and said no. Not because we couldn't do it, but because when we put it next to everything else we're working toward this year, a second car by the end of the summer specifically, the trip wasn't where we wanted that money to go. We're still going to go to Colorado, just not the extended version. I want to show you exactly how that decision happened, clearly, without anxiety and without one of us pushing for the trip and the other pumping the brakes. No judgment, no shame, because it came down to one thing we did before we ever got emotionally attached to the plan. Here's how most people plan a vacation. They get excited about the idea first. They look at destinations, they browse hotels, and start imagining the trip. By the time they look at what it's going to cost, they're already attached to the version that they built in their head. Which means by the time the budget conversation happens, it's already too late for it. Because you're not asking, is this where we want to put our money? You're asking, how do we make this work? Those are completely different and very valid questions, but only one of them leads to a discussion about how you spend your money. When my husband and I asked about how we wanted to spend our money before we built any version of this trip, before the kids knew there was a plan, before we were too far into the planning to change it. And the answer was no, that's not how we wanted to spend our money. It was clean, but that only happens when you have the real numbers in front of you before you're attached to the vacation. That's what this spreadsheet does. My free summer planning spreadsheet is available at www.simplifywithleanne.com/summer, and it's built for exactly this, mapping out what the trip actually costs before you're committed to a version that you couldn't or shouldn't take. So the conversation with your spouse, your friends, or yourself happens with real numbers, not optimism, not estimates. The link is in the description. You can grab it and watch how I actually build a trip. Most people build the trip and then find out what it costs. I find out what it costs before I'm so excited about specific details. That's it. That's the shift. When you know the real numbers first, before you've told anyone, before you've started packing in your head, before you've purchased plane tickets, you're making a values decision with clear information. And then you can hold that up to everything else in your life and ask, is this actually where we want to spend this money? If the answer is no, you can walk away before it costs you anything, before the kids are disappointed, before you're doing math in a hotel parking lot, trying to figure out if you can afford one more day. That's not restricting yourself. That's deciding on purpose how you should spend your money. Every trip we consider taking, whether or not we take it or not, I build the same 2-tab spreadsheet. Tab 1 is the calendar. Tab 2 is the budget. And together they answer one question. What does this trip actually cost? And is that where we want to put that money? For the big trip we were considering, I built the whole thing out. Colorado, the national parks, the coast, Disneyland, real lodging costs, entry fees, gas, meal by meal, and the number landed right around $6,500. And when I looked at that next to our car goal, that's when the conversation with my husband got simple. The first tab of the spreadsheet is the calendar. Every day of the trip, dates across the top, time blocks down the side, morning, lunch, afternoon, dinner, where we're sleeping. Every slot filled in before we make decisions. For the Colorado trip we're actually taking, we're going to drive. I know where we're stopping, where we're eating, where we're sleeping. Day 2 is Rocky Mountain National Park, and we have 4th grade park passes, so the entry is free. And I've already looked up what we're going to be doing, and I've booked timed entry for the park. On day 3, we're going to Garden of the Gods. It's free. And Pikes Peak, not free. Everything is in the spreadsheet, where we're going to be eating. So we make those decisions before and not at 6 o'clock in the parking lot when we're hungry and crabby. Then I look at the empty time, the unplanned blocks. That's exactly where unplanned spending lives. When I can see it coming, I can decide what goes in those time blocks before we leave. So there aren't unexpected expenses. And then the pace is visible too. If a day has too much stacked in it, I can see it right now, not at 3 p.m. when everyone is exhausted and we're yelling at each other because we're tired and overwhelmed. The calendar doesn't restrict the trip, it protects it. The second tab of the spreadsheet is the budget. There are 5 categories: lodging, gas, food, activities, and miscellaneous. Under each category, there are real numbers. Right now, they're just estimates. I looked up the numbers of how much it would cost for our family, for hotels, for restaurants, the nightly rate at the YMCA of the Rockies, lodge rooms, cabins. I look up all of the options. I calculate how much gas will cost for our vehicle on the actual miles that we're going to be traveling. I look up menus. I round up. I estimate. But I put in real numbers into my spreadsheet. I look at those numbers right now and not when we're on the road. And I research each category. Lodging, what's included, not just the nightly rate. Is there a kitchen? Does it include breakfast? Does the lodging give us access to activities that we would otherwise have to pay for separately? All of that figures into the math. For activities, I looked up and decided before we go. Our kids get involved in that as well, and they can look up the activities and then they get excited and not bored. For example, one of our biggest spending expenses is going to be Pikes Peak, where we'll take the Cog Railroad up to the top of Pikes Peak. The kids got involved, they did their research, and we decided that is an area where we're going to splurge. Then when tab 2 is done, I have a number. I look at that number in combination with what we've saved and what we still have to save to meet that number. When I was building out our full Colorado West Coast Disneyland trip, that number was around $6,500. That's not outrageous for a family of 5. It's reasonable. But when I paired it next to our other savings goals and I looked at what we would have to pause or adjust in order to do both, I got answers pretty quickly. We weren't choosing between the trip and nothing. We were choosing between the trip and a second vehicle. 2 real things, 2 priorities for our family, and both things we actually want. But the car won. Not because someone told us we should, but because we sat down with real numbers and looked at them honestly. My husband and I came to an agreement. I didn't have to talk him into it. He didn't have to talk me into it. We just looked at the same picture and made the same call. That's the only way that this conversation goes smoothly. Let me stop here for a second, because this spreadsheet is only possible if you know how much you have saved for your vacation. With that, you can budget for your vacation and your whole life using my budget spreadsheet. This is a budget spreadsheet that shows you the full picture every single month where every dollar goes. You can get the free guide by clicking the link below. It's the system I have used for almost 20 years to do exactly this. And it makes the conversation like the one my husband and I had about our trip actually possible. Because we weren't guessing at numbers. We knew exactly what we needed. If you don't have clarity around that, this budget spreadsheet is a place to start. It's free and the link is in the description. So we're going to Colorado this summer, Rocky Mountain National Park, YMCA of the Rockies, park passes, packing our own food and cooler, and spending money on the things that are actually important to us. It's not the $7,000 trip that we had thought we were planning. It's a trip that we planned on purpose, that fits with what we're working toward, and that we'll enjoy without the low-level anxiety of knowing we probably shouldn't have spent that much. The bigger version, the coast, Disneyland, that's not gone. We're still planning for that trip. It's just not going to happen this year. Because this year, when we looked honestly at what we wanted, The second car came first. That's not a smaller life. That's building the life that we are actually choosing for our family. 2 tabs. That's it. One is the calendar. Every day, every meal, every activity before you leave, so you can see the real picture before you're too attached to it. Tab 2 is the budget. Real numbers that you looked up. Not estimates, not guesses that you pull out of the air, but real numbers. So the conversation with your spouse, your friend, yourself happens with the truth right in front of you. This summer planning spreadsheet is available for you for free at simplifywithleanne.com/summer. The link is in the description. Watch this video next where I talk more about how you can decide once and simplify your life. And don't forget to subscribe.